a lot of people here involved in this fight for clemency for death row inmates. A lot of people who oppose the death penalty. Another man here who has been fighting is Paul Ciolino, who is a private investigator who was responsible for freedom for your guys yesterday. You worked on the Aaron
Hobley, Patterson, case. Mario Flores, who was commuted to 40 years today.
What was this like being here and hearing this on the part of the
government? I think I'm here for history today. This is akin to one of the greatest political speeches ever given, or acts. He has done so many good things. He's saved lives like we can't believe. We know there's more guilty people sitting in prison in Illinois. This gives us an opportunity to continue fighting for them.
But this room was packed with people who think like you do, which is there probably shouldn't be a death penalty. There isn't a fair system. What do you say to the victims' families out there who listen to this speech and just see that
the victims' families, in a lot of cases, and 17 specifically, were sold a bill of goods. I'm positive that none of them victims' families wanted to see an innocent person murdered in their name. We don't know how many more innocent people are on death row. I know of a few of them. I don't want them to be dead. I want them to have an opportunity to prove their innocence at some venue. The victims' families have closure.
Well, I also want to get your perspective. Is there anything you think that can be done to reverse this on the part of anybody? A court, prosecutors go back in. This is a blanket commutation. It's unprecedented. Is there any legal grounds that you can see? I know you're not an attorney, but you work with them. Right. To potentially overturn this.
The governor's decision on clemency matters is unequivocal and final. They're making a lot of noise. They're barking. They may try and do something, but there's no court that's ever going to prevent this from happening.
Well, I appreciate the perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is going to be a question that we're going to want to put to some legal minds as well, because of the unprecedented nature of all of this. We're on ground here that has not been trod before, so it's it's going to be hard to see exactly exactly what's going to happen. As I said, we're breaking new ground as we speak. Some members of the Tribune team that have been working on this story here behind me is Maurice Posley. Hi. Jeff Flock from CNN.
Hi.
You've been writing stories about this issue for a long number of years, haven't you?
Since really starting in late 1998 is when we went after prosecutorial misconduct, and then it just kind of snowballed from one to the other.
The governor has cited your series at the Tribune for really helping to change his mind, and I guess that, as a journalist, is one of the things maybe you do what you do for.
Well, we try to enlighten the public, and in this case, I think we enlighten the governor.
At what point, though, as you know, you also talk to victims' families about this sort of thing. How do they reconcile this?
I think it's a really difficult thing for them, and I think essentially the governor talked about it, that even the guilty need fairness, and out of that comes the victims being sometimes cheated in the sense that they get the wrong person and the real person gets away.
That's not justice.
And that's not justice. Everybody needs some justice. And it's a moral thing too. I mean, he addressed that a little bit in terms of what is it that we need? Are we trying to soothe someone, or are we trying to get fairness and justice?
Is there anything in your view, and I know you're not an attorney either, but that anyone can do about this? Is there any way that the legislature takes any kind of action? Is there anything any of the prosecutors are going to do? Dick Devine said he'll take a look at whatever he could possibly do to try and find a flaw here.
Find a flaw in the system? I think the system has been shown that it has many, many flaws. The question is, it's a human system. Can it ever be perfect? The answer is no. I think that the commission that was appointed by the governor has shown there are ways to do it that can fix it in a way that we can be assured of a higher level of accuracy and fairness. Some would argue that it can never be completely fair. But if we're going to have this machinery, let's at least have it work to a higher degree of certainty.
Maurice Posley, I appreciate the time. One of the Tribune reporters who have been writing diligently on this topic for years. Heidi, back to you.
Jeffrey, we've got Jeffrey Toobin, who is standing by, a CNN legal analyst, to bring some more perspective to this, and Kendall Coffey, one more time, a former U.S. attorney. But Jeff, before we let you go, I do want to know if you have any way of knowing. I know that crowd is pretty big there. Jeff Flock, I know that the crowd is pretty big there, but I'm wondering if victims' families were there at all, or if they were invited to this speech that the governor just gave. Any way to tell?
I must tell you that no, they were not invited, and this was a very reasonably well-controlled group. So no, this by no means is a cross-section of the people out there. You know, I also see Rob Warden over here, and I wonder if I can get in his ear right quick. Hey, Rob. Hi. Jeff Locke live on CNN right now. Another man who has been fighting this a long time, both as a journalist and now here with the Center for Wrongful Convictions.
Center on Wrongful Convictions. We're against them, you know.
Right. I was going to say, I made you, turned you around there. This is got to be a culmination of your efforts here.
This is really an historic moment, and I think it's going to have reverberations throughout the country. There are 37 more states to go. And there's a lot of work to be done.
But you know this was not a cross-section of the populace here.
No.
And when you do the polls, you know that you're on the minority side of the issue.
Well, except, you know, we've noticed that the salience of this issue among the proponents is much less than it used to be. And we've believed for a long time that all of the facts are on our side. If you can only get intelligent, open-minded people to listen, this will be the result. And this is a step in that direction. Before, people simply weren't listening, but this is a seminal event.
Before we get away, I also want to ask you about this governor. Yeah. Would there be any way for a governor who was not ending his political career to have taken the kind of action this governor took today? Really?
Well, you know, Abraham Lincoln did it during his tenure. He commuted 264 sentences of Dakota and Minnesota.
We don't want to talk about how he wound up.
Well, no, but that's not why, by the way. But it's been done, and I think it can be done. And the death penalty is a medieval relic that it's simply time that for us to get rid of it. And it's only a matter of time until we join the rest of the world in doing so.
Rob Warden, I appreciate the time. Thank you, sir. Rob Warden, as we said, here with the Center on Wrongful Convictions here at Northwestern University Law School.
Go back to you for just a moment. I understand that you have someone who has been previously pardoned in the state of Illinois, right?
Well, it's the man who was pardoned yesterday. This is Aaron Patterson, one of the men of the hour here. You know, we're talking about the fairness of this. Obviously, you know, if you're innocent, that's one thing. But there are men on death row that aren't innocent.
Yeah.
And what do you say to the victims' families who hear what the governor said today and are anguished?
No, this is what I'm going to say to the victim's family. I want to meet with all the victim's family. I was on death row with every inmate on death row. I know each one of them personally or indirectly, right? And I can give them a first-hand interpretation of what these individuals are about, you know, how they living on death row and everything. I just left death row. I know everything that they will want to know.
And you know some of them are guilty.
Yes, they are guilty, but some are redeemable, too. Ronaldo Hudson is a redeemable individual.
But to these family members who have heard a sentence of death be pronounced and feel that that's going to bring closure to them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've lost anyone in your life.
Yes, I did. I lost a bunch of people in the last 17 years, you know. I was emotionally pulled by the circumstances, right? But I understand how things happen, you know. And if I just don't want to be a part of a system that does murder. One hand, you know, kill one and then you kill another in return, you know.
May I ask you if you had an opinion about the death penalty yourself before you got snarled in the justice system?
I really never thought about the death penalty other than what was going on in the streets, you know, that type of street justice, right? But this was a wake-up call for me. This is a wake-up call, and I was on death row, and it's a lot of mentally ill men on death row. We're very concerned about them being put in prison population. There are innocent men on death row like Ronald Kleiner. Hey, let me tell you about Ronald Kleiner.
He's one of the men you're looking to try to get his case.
Fields been held hostage in the 26 in California. He should be released.
So let me ask you this question. You know what it would be like now. These men will leave death row and they will go into the general prison population, correct?
That's no country club.
What will that be like?
That's no country club. You can get killed in prison population. As the governor explained, it is no fun in prison, a 6x12 cell.
And let me ask you this. Do you think the man standing next to you here, Paul Ciolino, told me
saved my life.
that he thinks it's worse punishment to be imprisoned for life than it is to be executed? What do you think?
It is. It's an installment plan of the death penalty. The stress factor is unbelievable. We've seen 3 guys die within a month, a couple months ago. Frankie Red, Harley Ray Davidson, and Donald Bull, a strong guy, Donald Bull. And the stress was just unbearable. The man had a heart attack, an aneurysm, you know? So,
but you understand some people in the general populace would be hard to develop sympathy for somebody who's on death row for killing people.
like I said, I've been around a lot of these guys for over 17 years. I'm giving you firsthand information. Some of these guys have turned their life around. Some of these guys are innocent. I was innocent. If the governor didn't pardon me, I'd still be sitting on death row right now.
Jeff, we don't want sympathy. We want an even playing field. Aaron Patterson was convicted in an unfair system. If he'd have had the breaks that should have been afforded to him initially, he'd have never been convicted of this crime. He wouldn't have had 17 years of his life ripped from him. He wouldn't have lost family members who were dead. This guy was innocent of that crime, and if we have an even playing field, we don't have these mistakes.